All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll go ahead and call this regularly scheduled May 9th Commission meeting to order. I'm going to start with approval of the agenda. I have no additions, changes, or amendments.
So moved.
I have a motion from Commissioner Martin, a second from Commissioner Coleman. Any comments or questions on the motion on the floor from the dais? Any public comments or questions on the motion on the floor? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passed unanimously. We'd like to invite Pastor Armin Lowry from Fresh Wind at Mount Zer to give tonight's invocation. If you would, please rise for the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance, which will directly follow. Pastor Lowry.
Thank you. Thank you for that. In Jesus' name, amen. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor Lowry. And that will take us to presentations. Assistant City Manager.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. It is my pleasure to bring before you this evening a presentation to celebrate an achievement of one of our own. As you may be aware, the Florida League of Cities recently recognized our mayor, Mayor Jordan Marlowe, with the 2022 Home Rule Hero Award for his hard work and advocacy efforts during the 2022 legislative session. Throughout the session, Mayor Marlowe worked tirelessly to promote local voices making local choices, protect the home rule powers of Florida municipalities, and advance the League's legislative agenda. For those of you that may not be aware, home rule is the ability of the city to address local problems with local solutions with minimal state interference. Home Rule Hero Award recipients are local government officials, both elected and non-elected, who consistently respond to the League's request to reach out to members of the legislature and help give local perspective on issues. So if you'd please join me in congratulating our mayor on receiving this prestigious award and being a champion for the citizens of Newberry.
And I have to specifically thank, I got some help with modeling with that picture there, where to put the hand, how to stand. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
Everybody in the background smile. Home rule rules.
All right. I appreciate it. I appreciate it, and I'm honored to mayor in a city that has so many people that insist that we go up and defend home rule and support that effort. It certainly is a worthy cause, because Tallahassee, full of Republicans that seem to also not be very much in favor of small government. Leave that for another day. All right, that'll move us to our second, which is annual fire department update. Chief?
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. This is our annual fire department update that we provide to the commission and the citizens on an annual basis. Last year, with everything that was going on, we skipped a year, so we're going to add a few. Basically, it's going to cover 2 years worth of items. So. The red button, you said? Okay. There it is. Thank you. So the fire department demographics, our staffing matrix is 4 personnel per shift, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We have a lieutenant, a driver, operator, a firefighter EMT, and a firefighter paramedic which is part of that exchange program with Alachua County that's been in place since the year 2000. Our personal qualifications for the ranks of lieutenant and driver operator currently have and currently still exceed those of our peers for certain requirements. Our lieutenants are required to be inspectors as well as fire officers. Our drivers are required to not only have the state driver operator qualifications, they're also required to have the aerial certification from the state. We have that partnership, as I mentioned earlier, with Alachua County. It's been in place since the year 2000. That allows us to respond for initial response ALS. Our insurance service offices, our ISO rating is a 3.3X. We just completed an evaluation. We'll talk about that here shortly. We have the second largest response area, primary response area in the entire county, next to Alachua County. We cover 64 square miles. Some of that, this is an older map. The blue area is the incorporated area of the city of Newberry. There's additional blue now than what there was when this map was created. And I say the blue area just around where it says Station 28 to the boundary lines, the red boundary lines. We're compensated from Alachua County to respond to those calls in unincorporated Alachua County. Likewise, there's reciprocity with them. If we're on another city call and one of their units has to come into the city of Newberry, we owe them for that call, for a city call. If we're on a city call and they have to run a county call, there is no reciprocity for that. We're only paying the county if they're running a city call while we're on another city call, which equates to roughly 40 to 50 calls a year. The total number of calls that we respond to for Alachua County on an annual basis goes anywhere between 325 to 380, 385 calls a year, and then we net out those reciprocity calls. Goals and accomplishments and areas of focus. Newberry instituted, I came to the commission several years ago, 5 years ago, I believe, and requested that we add money in our training budget to send folks to paramedic school. The commission has done that every year since. To date, we've assisted 2 personnel with obtaining their paramedic certification, and they're still and one of them is still with us. And a third person, he was already in paramedic school, so we helped him finish. We have one person that's wanting to go to paramedic school, and it's either going to be in August or January. So the program is, it's working, it's just going to take some time. The goal of that program is to allow us to provide our own first response ALS, which would make that exchange program that we have with the county since the year 2000, that would go away. Personnel level, staffing levels wouldn't change. The ambulance will still be there. It's just we're no longer doing the exchange. We've had several department personnel over the last 2 years obtain coursework and state certifications that allow them to work what we call out of class. We have some firefighters that can now work out of class as driver operators. We've had that in the past. We now have one person on every shift that can work out of class as driver. We have a separate person on every shift that can now work out of class as a lieutenant. That helps tremendously when it comes to staffing. So that's been a good program, and it's also been something that's been bearing fruit for the personnel because it allows them to obviously get a higher level of training, more certifications, a little bit of pay increase that's involved with it too, so it's been fruitful for everybody. We realized the placement of the ambulance within the corporate limits of the city. That was 2018, I believe. That process started, it actually started back in 2015 with a conversation with 3 county fire chiefs ago with Will May. Finally, we got to a point where we were able to provide the data-driven items that said, hey, you got to do something. We're going to talk about those in just a few minutes. We completed the ISO Public Protection Classification, the PPC evaluation. That takes about 8 to 9 months. It was a very detailed evaluation, and what that PPC does is ISO sets the protection rates for your homeowner's insurance, for your fire protection, and your businesses, their protection rates as well. We won't get into deep in the weeds on how all that works, just because that's a whole presentation by itself, the ISO presentation. But the better you are, 1 being the best, 10 being the worst, the better you are, the better rates your citizens and businesses get for their fire insurance. We're a 3. That's really good for a department of our size. To give you an idea, Alachua County has stations all over the county, and about 250 operations personnel, and there are 3 also. So it's a pretty good feather in the city of Newberry's cap. Goals and areas of focus continued. We talked about the agreement we have with Alachua County, something I took to the county about 1.5 years ago to Chief Theus about a West Side training facility. Currently, the only training facility that Alachua County has access to and that we have access to is at the Lofton Center. Part of our ISO required training is what's called facilities training. You have to have a 3-story drill tower. You have to be able to do certain things at that drill tower. We don't have that facility. We have to drive all the way to the east side of Gainesville to get that training. If you have folks that are on vacation or you're running calls, you don't get the training. And so we have deficiencies, and a lot of departments have deficiencies, not just us. I know there's somebody in the room here tonight from GFR that they have their own drill tower, so my guess is they probably meet all their ISO training facility, or at least the majority of it. We get about half of it. So we partner with Alachua County to bring a state-of-the-art training facility to the west side of the county. The county's already budgeted money for it. The city has been in discussions with them about where we're going to put it. I won't get into all those details tonight because I know some things aren't finalized, but that's going to allow us as a city of Newberry and the county to get that training that we're missing for some of those ISO points. It's going to be beneficial. The higher trained your folks are, the better they're going to perform. This year, we will receive in December, should be by December, possibly by November, the new Quint that the commission budgeted for and we ordered in this fiscal year. It's going to replace the 24-year-old Quint we currently have. That's going to be, as all of you are aware, with the developments that you've seen on the maps and the amount of commercial and the size of some of the buildings and things of that nature, that's a need. It's not a, well, we don't really have to have it. I mean, it's a need. And that's going to pay dividends for your ISO and for your residents as well. You know, we always strive to continue to provide the highest level of service, customer service, through professionalism, accountability, efficiency, and cost effectiveness, always being mindful of taxpayer dollars. I often get accused of being tight with money. I kind of treat the fire department budget like I do my budget. You know, you take care of your needs before you take care of your wants, and then if you've got some money left, then you pick up some of the wants. And I think that's being a good steward of taxpayer dollars. They entrust us with a lot of money every year that you guys allow us to utilize to function. And I believe it's ultra important that we maintain that good stewardship of those funds. Okay, so here's some statistics. This is just for calendar year 2021. This is just a call breakdown of the types of calls that we run every year. As you've heard me say in the past presentations, you know, it's anywhere between 75, 25, 70, 30 on the percentages of EMS calls versus non-EMS calls. As you can see, that's basically where we're at again. excuse me. So we ran 1,136 calls in calendar year 2021. And I know that for some folks that doesn't seem like a whole lot, but to kind of give you an idea of what's happened in my time in Newberry. When I first started here in 1994, we ran just shy of 350 calls a year. So call loads directly correlated with population. And so as population continues to grow, we can expect our call load to go up. So, you know, the call loads were running roughly about 70-30, 70% EMS-based calls and 30% non-EMS-based calls.
Hang on one second, Chief.
Sure.
Do we still have that truck there in the middle in a shed somewhere?
No, that was a loaner from Division of Forestry.
That's a
But
cool truck.
when I started here, the two trucks on the left were our primary response vehicles. So obviously, the commission has changed some things over the years. Yeah, there was no back portion of that. The whole back of those cabs were opened up, so when it rained, when you were the low guy on the pole, you got to sit in the rain. So it was all right, though. It was fun. But where that truck is the old fire station, which is across the street, where that office is now. That truck is actually sitting inside that building over there. So this is something that I asked the county to send me. You know, we talk about that rescue and what does it really mean to the city, and obviously, you know, having a rescue close, we all want that. But what are the numbers? What are the stats? What's the data that drove that rescue to get here? So if you look at 2018, 2019, one full year, that column there, responding to arrival. So that's the time from the time the ambulance that was coming to our calls hit responding on their computers to the time they got on scene. Those are your times. 70% of the time it took over 16 minutes. 98% of the time they made it within 26 minutes. And then the average during that year at 98% was just under 15 minutes, which is what we were saying. It's taking 15, 20 minutes to get a rescue out here. The year immediately following, the ambulance was put in place in Newberry, and I believe it was April 8th of 19. You can see how things dramatically changed. So for our citizens, we cut essentially 10 minutes off of ambulance response times by having that ambulance in Newberry. That's huge. 10 minutes is huge. So now 98% of the time we have an ambulance on scene in just over 5.5 minutes. That's huge. I mean, I don't know how else to say it. That's really big for us. When we went from 15 minutes to just shy of 6. So the ambulance has done what it was supposed to do. And if you look there at the responses, it goes back to the population thing again too. So of all the rescue unit responses in the Newberry in 2018, the date parameters for 2018 to 19, there was 506 responses of an ambulance in the Newberry. The very first year we had an ambulance in Newberry, it jumped 100 calls. So population, more calls. Okay, that concludes my presentation. Does anybody have any questions?
Thank you, Chief. And that those stats on the ambulance, I agree that there are really no words to capture how important that is for our growing community. Questions from Dias? Commissioner Farnsworth.
I don't have a question, I have a statement. Considering the ambulance, back in, I guess probably back as far as I can remember in the 60s and early 70s, we had the ambulance come from Trenton, and it was the funeral home. And they'd they'd drive all the way from Trenton to Newberry, pick somebody up, throw them in the back. You didn't get any care per se. They pretty much threw you in the back of their ambulance and hauled you to Los Regional Hospital. But it's kind of nice to see where we have gotten to at this point in time.
Absolutely. There's a
Anybody
whole lot
get
of care
confused
being
with an
provided.
ambulance and a hearse? Yeah.
Well, they had the little.
Oh, that makes all the difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dual
You know, they had the
purpose.
ambulance on the side, so
What year did you say that was, Glenn?
It was-
1912. 30?
60s, you know, back when you were in your 20s.
Any other questions from the dais?
I do.
Yeah, Commissioner Coleman.
You can't talk him into doing this here in Newberry, this 3-story drill tower?
It's coming to Newberry. That's where I proposed it at. I say it's coming to Newberry. I proposed it in Newberry. The county was receptive. It's going to be in the western part of the city, without getting into a whole lot of detail. And it's already in the vision of a site plan that's being worked on currently. So it's, the hope is that the design phase of that site plan would kind of have progressed a little bit farther than what it has right now. The goal was to at least get this thing going by the end of this calendar year. Not so sure that's going to happen now, but hopefully it will. The city's been receptive, the county was receptive to it. Like I said, the county's already budgeted some money for it, about $250,000,
How long till you retire?
about 30-something days.
I'm gonna make sure if I'm still on this board to name that after you.
Don't name anything after me, boy. You'll have shotgun pellets all over.
Commissioner Coleman just wants to challenge Commissioner Farnsworth, where you got to put the hose around you and run up the 3 flights of steps.
I don't do
And
a
I
whole
want
lot
you
of
to film
running
it.
anymore, so it's,
Well, you know, I was on the volunteer fire department here in the city of Newberry.
In 1915?
No, it was,
Where the horses have and they had to do this to get it to go.
so, you know, I was lucky enough to be around whenever we transitioned. I think it was Rescue 26 that we ended up with a little fast response unit, and I got my EMT
That's what started you
during
in the
that,
medical
and that
field.
started me along my way there. But it was nice to even have a quick response unit here in Newberry at that time.
I bet. Commissioner Clark?
I say thank you, Chief, for doing what you did to keep this thing rolling and keep it always going toward the top as professionalism.
my pleasure, my pleasure.
All right, thank you, sir. We appreciate you. All right, and with that, we'll move to item 3, which is National Historic Month. Ms. Jackson will come tell us a little bit about National Historic Month.
Well, it's National Historic Preservation Month. Oh,
I already messed it up, man.
all right.
Golly.
Well, I turned it on.
I don't have yours up yet, hang on.
Oh, okay.
She's messed it up back there for her, so why does this keep changing?
I know. I did. I turned it back on.
I'll turn it back on.
Mm-hmm. See, I know. I was questioning myself too. All right. So before we really get into this, I want to talk about what historic preservation is. So it is a tool for managing change through identifying, evaluating, and maintaining historic sites. The National Register of Historic Places is a list that is overseen by the National Park Service, and there are thousands of structures on this list currently, but they are all significant either at a local, state, or national level. They have to be over 50 years unless they are exceptionally significant. They can be younger than 50 years old, and they are associated with important events, persons, their design and construction, or their ability to yield future information, and usually that falls under archaeology. So one thing that makes people want to be on this list is it allows you to apply for federal tax incentives if you're on that list. There are 4 approaches to historic preservation, and I hear a lot of people use these words interchangeably, but in the field they are different. So the 4 approaches are preservation, rehabilitation, restoration, and reconstruction, and that's the order of increasing amount of intervention. So preservation is essentially, here's the condition of it, we don't want it to get any worse, so we're going to preserve it. Rehabilitation is that plus usually a change in use. The Little Red Schoolhouse is a great example because it was a school, but we're going to make it offices, so it is a rehabilitation. Restoration is when we pick a year and then we take that building back to that year. So even if a structure was built in 1800, maybe you want to restore it to its 1880s. So that's when you take it back to the 1880s. And then reconstruction, it's gone, but we're going to rebuild it, and that's reconstruction. And then oftentimes you have a mix of all four of these approaches used at one structure. You might preserve the exterior, rehabilitate the interior for new use, and reconstruct the porch. So those are the four different approaches to historic preservation. And then something I really want to emphasize is the greatest power lies at the local level. You can be on these national lists, but that offers zero protection for the building. So the greatest power to preserve is through local ordinances and review. So some examples of historic preservation in Newberry. We are a CLG, which is another National Park Service program, which municipalities like ours commit to local preservation. We have a Newberry Main Street organization, which is another subsidiary of that's the National Trust for Historic Preservation. It's a nonprofit, and they promote preservation-based economic development. We have one small historic district here with a couple dozen contributing structures. And we currently have no locally designated landmarks, which maybe that'll change soon. And then, like I mentioned earlier, Little Red Schoolhouse is an example of a rehabilitation, which happened in the 90s using grants and those tax programs I mentioned earlier. So May is the National Month for Historic Preservation. It was originally a National Preservation Week in 1973, and then that was signed into law by Nixon, and then we extended it nationally to a full month in 2005. This month, actually, when I made this presentation, that was for P&Z, so since then they have announced the 11 most endangered historic places. It's an annual list that comes out through the National Trust, and the Florida Trust has a similar list, which I'm going to go look up when I get done here to go see what structures in Florida they designated as the 11 most endangered. And the 2022 national theme was People Saving Places, but the state of Florida has specifically chosen another theme, which is Caring for Historic Cemeteries. And so I included this slide to show you that if you want to get involved, you can help with this historic cemetery inventory by filling out either this paper form, and there's also a nice online electronic form that you could submit if you'd rather do that. But basically the state just wants to inventory all of the cemeteries in Florida that are at least 50 years old. They estimate that about 3/4 of these are not recorded and they have no knowledge of them. So the state is looking for this information. If you want physical forms, I can always print them out for you and we can figure that out. Same if you need any help filling out the form, or maybe even you want help on the weekend, maybe I'll even come out. I actually did one cemetery in La Crosse yesterday as part of Mother's Day. With my mom and my grandma, who are also history nerds. But the recommendation is we proclaim May Historic Preservation Month in Newberry as well.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson. And on the point about the cemetery, because it's come up a few times in the past year, it is important to communicate to folks, because I get the question about what's Newberry doing about these cemeteries that nobody knows about. Why aren't y'all out there, recording them and those kinds of things? One, it's a huge endeavor, and two, it's important to know that 100 years ago, most people's backyard was the cemetery, and so we do have lots of private cemeteries that are all out there that are not charted. So this isn't a conspiracy. No one's trying to cover cemeteries up. No one's trying intentionally not to record cemeteries. There was just an awful lot of people died often back then, just like today, and we have taken cemeteries under government's wing, but that's just another example of government, getting involved. Whereas before you just handled it yourself in the back 40. So with that, I'll offer the following proclamation for National Historic Preservation Month. In the end, our society will be defined not only by what we create, but by what we refuse to destroy. It's a quote by John Sawhill. Whereas historic preservation is an effective tool for managing growth and sustainable development, revitalizing neighborhoods, fostering local pride, maintaining community character, and enhancing livability. Whereas the City of Newberry's historic district seeks to preserve and maintain historically significant resources located within the City of Newberry, Florida, keeping the city a unique and special place. And whereas historic preservation is relevant for communities across the nation, both urban and rural, and for Americans of all ages, all walks of life, and all ethnic backgrounds. And whereas it is important to celebrate the role of history in our lives and the contributions made by dedicated individuals in helping to preserve the tangible aspects of the heritage that has shaped us as a people. Whereas the City of Newberry has selected People Saving Places as the theme for National Historic Preservation Month 2022. Now, therefore, I, Jordan Marlowe, Mayor of the City of Newberry, on behalf of the City Commission, now proclaim the month of May is hereby designated as Historic Preservation Month. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand this 9th day of May 2022. So be it proclaimed. Thank you, Ms. Jackson. Okay, that moves us to public announcements. Do we have any public announcements? The Commission likes to hear from you. You got 2 minutes to let us know anything that's on your mind. Seeing no public announcements, I'll move to the consent agenda. I have a motion to approve the consent agenda. Motion from Commissioner Maison, second by Commissioner Farnsworth. Any comments or questions on the motion on the floor from the dais? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passed unanimously, and that takes us to comments. Assistant City Manager, do you have anything to say?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I would like to remind the commission that this morning we started our mass deployment of the AMI water meters and electric meters. So that project is underway and slated to have that complete by early September.
That's it? You might be replacing Mr. New here.
No, we're not quite as long-winded as Manager Newton.
Thank you, sir. Madam Attorney?
I'm going to be just like Jamie, no comment.
All right.
Short and sweet.
All right, we're rolling. Madam Clerk?
I don't have anything.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Maison, you got any comments? We have a BOA immediately following this, so there'll be another opportunity for community comments. You got any comments now?
Love you guys.
Commissioner Martin? Commissioner Farnsworth? Commissioner Clark? Commissioner Coleman?
No.
I'll hold mine as well. And with that, citizen comment. Anybody citizen comment? Now you have 5 minutes to make a comment if you'd like. Seeing none, we are adjourned for 5 minutes. May 27th.
Are you gonna bring up the baseball team? Because if you are, I ain't gonna say nothing.
No, you can bring it.
No.
So moved. Second.
As written.
Commissioner Martin, and Commissioner Farnsworth is second. Here comes Commissioner Mazon. All right, Madam Attorney? Oh, so all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Madam Attorney, will you read into the public hearing for the resolutions number 2022-11?
I'd be happy to, Mr. Chair. So on item number 2, this is resolution number 2022-11, a resolution of the City Commission serving as the Board of Adjustment of the City of Newberry, Florida, considering an application for a special exception within the agricultural zoning district as authorized under section 4.4.5 of the City of Newberry Land Development Regulations to allow a zipline park and off-site signage on certain lands within the corporate limits of the City of Newberry, Florida. Parcel identification number 01861-001-000, consisting of approximately 59.75 acres, providing for repealer and providing for an effective date.
So, ex parte? So ex parte, you have any? Commissioner?
I want to disclose there was probably maybe about a year ago, I had a conversation with Mr. Spain about his vision and his idea about this project. It looks relatively the same as what it was back then. I do not have any financial interest involved in the park one way or the other, and that conversation would not affect my interpretation of this special exception application today.
Commissioner Barnes? Myself, I am friends with Mr. Solomon, and I've had a conversation with him only about that this was what their intuition and fruition was for this property. I have no interest in it, and it does not sway any way I vote.
None.
Okay, so at this time, we need to swear in Miss Judy, all applicants. Anyone having anything to do with this?
If you're not sure if you're going to talk, now's a good time to just stand up and knock it out.
Okay, starting from my left, please state your name for the record.
Carl Spain.
John Paul Press.
Okay, do you hereby swear or affirm the testimony you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Let me do this one.
And Mr. Chair, prior to proceeding, I'm going to go ahead and read in the presentation order as well as a statement. All public testimony will be taken under oath. Everyone testifying will be subject to cross-examination. All documents and exhibits shall be entered into evidence. Given the opinion testimony is limited to experts, closing arguments will be limited to the evidence of record. And then the presentation we'll go through today is there will be a staff overview. The applicant will present. There's no time limit. There will be a staff report and recommendation with no time limit. We have no third-party interveners. There will be public comment limited to 3 minutes each. Again, no interveners. Then the applicant may cross-examine. The staff may cross-examine. The members of the decision-making body, through the chair, may ask questions of staff, applicant, party interveners, and participants. A final argument may be made by the applicant, party interveners, and then the staff related solely to the evidence and testimony presented at the hearing and introduced into the record. City attorney will advise the decision-making body as to the applicable law. There will be deliberation of the application, and after deliberation, a vote will be taken to approve with conditions, continue, or deny the application.
Thank you. So at this time, staff overview.
Thank you. My name is John Paul Perez with the Planning and Economic Development Department. Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Chair, members of the commission sitting as the Board of Adjustment. The request before you tonight is...
Oh, yeah. Put it right there on the side.
There's a cable issue, so move it a little closer to me. Can you guys hear me fine? Okay, great.
We actually just like to watch Jerry from CHW have to do that, so otherwise look at all
Ooh,
right.
thank you.
Look at there.
There we go,
Now
much
that's
better.
engineering right there.
So the request before you tonight is a special exception. It is a zipline course proposed in an agricultural zoning district. The agent for the owner is Spain Development LLC, the owners of the Selmies, as you probably already know. On May 2nd, the Planning and Zoning Board heard this item. They are recommending that you approve the special exception. Included in the resolution is the Planning and Zoning Board report containing the conditions. At the meeting, there was a brief discussion about it, including dark sky. However, they did not amend any of the conditions recommended by staff to include dark sky. Just wanted to disclose that to you. In addition, at that meeting, I had mentioned that the next meeting that this would be on for a Board of Adjustment would be June 13th. Due to some contractual obligations, this petition needs to move ahead of that scheduled hearing, and the agent and owner are moving this forward with the understanding that if it is challenged, the cycle will need to repeat itself. And again, the Planning and Zoning Board does recommend approval. So we're just going into the actual project itself now. Again, it is a zipline course. It's on approximately 59.75 acres. It used to be an old mining site. It's got a quarry there, and that will kind of serve as the main water feature over which the zipline course will run. It's right across the street from Argos, just southwest of the Gatorback. There's a total of 9 towers that make up the zipline course. And there are some structures on the site totaling about 1,064 square feet, consisting of an office, a concession stand, some bathrooms. There is also parking on the site and other improvements for a zipline course that are pretty standard. This is the subject property, outlined in blue. In red is the current access road. We included a condition for them to secure legal means of access. This, I believe, exists today as a kind of like a common law access to the site. The access to the site might actually change over time. That'll be something they'll have to formalize before we issue any sort of building permits. Here's a conceptual plan of the proposed zipline course. The zipline course, some fences. People will be entering the site from the west side, and there's a small beach event area where they'll hold events. And staff finds it the proposed request consistent with the City of Newberry land development regulations and the comprehensive plan. We also recommend approval. There are multiple conditions. If you'd like me to go through them one by one, I can do so. I've put them up on the screen if you'd like to hear them. Otherwise, I'll leave it for you to ask me some questions.
Just give us the brief overview.
I'd like to.
Put them all up there, but you don't have to.
Yeah.
Well, Mr. Chair, I would either say you have to go through the whole thing, because if it's questions, you want to hold those for the question section. So say to
question.
RP, go through each
Let's go
condition.
through them so everybody hears them.
Okay. So prior to the issuance of a
Questions at the end.
certificate of occupancy or completion, the owners must obtain all necessary Florida Department of Health permits for the construction of a well and septic system. And should the city water and wastewater services be extended within a distance of 800 feet to the property, from the property, the owners must connect to city services within 12 months of notifications of availability and pay all applicable fees. Prior to the issuance of a building permit, the owners shall obtain an access easement from the subject property to the Northwest County Road 235 in a form acceptable to the city attorney, which shall be recorded into the public records of Alachua County, Florida. If the access road is gated, the owner shall coordinate with the with the Newberry Fire Department and Alachua County Fire Department on installation of a Knox box for emergency access. Number 4, prior to the issuance of an off-site sign permit, the owner shall provide evidence of authorization from the landowner upon which the sign is placed to construct and maintain off-site signage in a form acceptable to the city attorney. Prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy or completion, the owner shall provide to the City of Newberry building official and display in a conspicuous location on the property a valid Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services, abbreviated as FDACS, annual permit and record of the last inspection by same. FDACS regulates rides and whatnot for fairs, so they'll be the ones that are the state regulating body. Prior to making modifications of operations, the owner shall notify FDACS and the City of Newberry Fire Department and Alachua County Fire Department before those changes become operational by written and verbal report. All defects, manufacturer bulletins, or failures of inspection shared with FDACS must also be sent to the City of Newberry Fire Department and Alachua County Fire Department. And the last 14 daily inspections must be made immediately available upon request by same. Number 8, the proposed use shall not be enlarged, increased, intensified, or altered without further review by the City of Newberry Board of Adjustment or other board designated in the land development regulations as amended from time to time. And discontinuation of the use for a period of 12 consecutive months shall render the special exception null and void. Number 9, no use of public address systems shall occur prior to 8 a.m. or after sunset, except under emergency circumstances. So public address being any sort of loudspeaker. All right. The owner shall comply with and maintain an up-to-date and operations and emergency plan that is kept on file at all times with the City of Newberry Fire Department and Building Department. And same shall be notified by written and verbal report 14 days of any changes to the operation emergency plan. And number 11, and this one has a few caveats. In accordance with the facility's most current approved operations emergency plan, owner shall provide at the owner's expense the fire, rescue, EMS services specified and as may be determined necessary by the City of Newberry Fire Department for all events, including all event days. Provide adequate emergency medical services for all events as required by their insurance, and, as applicable, provide emergency vehicle access to all areas of the site and all event activities, allowing safe routes of passage prior, during, and after events. Not obstruct or impede emergency service access. Provide on-site fire suppression, water, and emergency medical service capability. I just want to clarify the strike-through. This was something that had changed the day of the P&Z meeting. Prior to the meeting, the agent had reached out to me and advised that based on some subsequent conversations after the DART meeting, they would not be required to have water on site for emergency service. That would be shuttled into the site. Fire departments confirmed that that's the case. All right, and moving on, ensure personnel are familiar with and can implement appropriate safety, maintenance, and emergency policies and procedures. Next is obtain at least $1 million in liability assurance, comply with all health requirements for provision of restrooms and food handling, and ensure all mobile food vendors attain and hold current mobile vendor licenses, and not permit open fires. And that is the recommended action to approve Resolution 2022-11, Special Exception Application SE 22-04, with conditions provided in the agenda summary and draft resolution.
Okay. I think then we go to the applicant, or do we do questions now? Applicant. Okay. Thank you. Applicant? Wow, you're running out.
I used to swim there.
I did too, till Carl kicked me out.
That water's contaminated then.
Yeah, Cole's been swimming in it for sure.
Very nice.
Good evening. Thank you for your attention, commissioners, mayor, citizens, everyone else. My name is Carl Spain. I'm the developer of the zip line park. One moment. Technical difficulties. If this doesn't work, we can just skip it, Janine. Oh, this might work. We got it to run once, so. Here we go. So this is a little slice of heaven. It's 59, almost 60 acres. The quarry itself is 27 acres. I estimate it took 1 million man-hours to create this over 50 years. As I say, it was carved by the finger of God. It's just beautiful. 40-foot limestone cliff walls going down another 35 feet from the base and then 55 feet deep in the center. It's just a magnificent and beautiful thing that, of course, the way these come about, when they dig down, they take out the overburden and they build that overburden mountain on the side. So as you drive around these, you have no idea what they are.
Where are you standing when you took this video on the map?
Okay, so if you look on the map, you can see this spot. I'm sorry, right here. It's called, I call this the overlook.
Okay.
So, and I'm panning, I'm looking over here, I'm panning across, and then right there at the end, you'll see this little white area.
Sir, since we're in quasi, can I get you to pick that up and stand behind the podium and hold it up because our camera is up there, and that
Sure,
way
of course.
what you're talking about will be on the record. As well.
Yeah, it won't be, okay. So the video was shot from here, and it's looking into that, starting over there and then coming across, and toward the end of the video, you'll see that little white area, which I call the beach. That's where they cut the hole in the wall to bring the stone out. Okay. Just keep hitting it, Janine. So 100 years ago, the Salmi family ancestors came here to Florida from Finland, and this is the property they settled on, prospered on, and they still own it. And I'm proud to say that 3 of these family members, Carl, John, and Ann, are now partners in this project. And some of them are here today. There's Carl and his wife and their children. Did I lose it? There we go. And hopefully someday their heirs will be as interested in this wonderful piece of heaven as we are. It's stunning. It was left to overgrow for nearly 50 years. They stopped mining in 1975. And that turned out to be critical because that meant that it could be, it didn't have to be terraced the way a modern mine would with a different permit, which is why it's so stunning. So then I put together what I call a Z team. This is basically engineers from around the country and the world to figure out what the best thing to do with this site was, the best and highest use. And because of the unique characteristic of this site, which is that it's stunningly beautiful, but that it has very low threshold for sewage. You can't put a lot of waste on this site, which leaves out residential, commercial, basically everything except recreation uses. This is myself. I was a newspaper man back in Washington. I also founded Maryland Prepaid College Trust. Has $8 billion invested today, and we put over 250,000 kids through college. That's an idea I stole from Florida, by the way. I also, when I moved down here, I built this mini golf up there behind the Pink Flamingo and redid the Pink Flamingo, put this playground in out there. And I've done some other projects in the area. The 17-unit rezone of some agricultural property in the city of Alachua, the Gopher Tortoise Preserve and RV Park in Gilchrist County. Gary Downson, my civil engineer, kind of famous for solar work, a wonderful man, and did those other projects that I told you about with me. GSE is our engineer for geotechnical and structural work. They're very famous, been in this area for a long time. And the gentleman working on this project with us, Ken Hill, is one of the founders of that organization, as is Monrad Tui. And then Hubbard Merrill is the engineering firm from Flagstaff, Arizona, that's doing specifically the ride engineering, which is a specialty. And his assistant, he's actually working on this project himself, and so is Sabrina Ballard, an engineer who works for him. A great team of people. Abbey Inc., again, world famous, aerial park, challenge course, camping, zipline tour company. They are the ones who physically will run the cable from point to point, test it, do everything on it. They create the instruction manual, which our people will use to know what they're doing, and the Florida Department of Agriculture will coordinate with them on our actual licensing. Traffic engineering was done by MPH Transportation Planning, Mike Henman, really great guy. I'm not going to read this whole long thing, but I'll just get to the conclusion, because here's our project trip generation, impact data, so on and so forth. And the bottom line was, based on analysis of the data provided by FDOT, combined with the project traffic estimates, the project does not create adverse transportation impacts on County Road 235. The minimal PM peak hour project turn volumes do not require a right or left turn lane at the project entrance. And here's a little map, shows you the site. There's the main road, which is servicing it. And that's the peak hour trip distribution. Operations and emergency plan, this was already filed. I've had a DART meeting with your chief and another meeting with him before that. And this is his approved communication plan, which basically means we're going to have radios there that our people use. And when they come on site, we give them a radio and we're all on the same net. Medical plan, basically, we're going to do training in combination with their department and by ourselves. The chief asked me to put in a helicopter landing zone, which we did, fire suppression plan, obviously, we're not going to really allow any fires, gas containers, no hazardous waste, nothing like that at the site.
You got enough water to, you got a pit we can draw out of. I promise you, we can put a fire out.
You can't, because I have a 40-foot wall, and the chief's hoses that go to that water are in two 10-foot sections.
Well, we need some
So the
more.
most he can go down is 20 feet.
We need some more equipment.
The chief can call Lake City, and they can airdrop from
Well,
those helicopters.
Gatorback has a 10,000-gallon tank.
Yeah.
And your two trucks carry enough to handle whatever we have there, 864 square feet plus a small parking lot. So really, we're in good shape on that. 20-foot paved wide road I agreed to get in and out. And I also agreed to add a 14-foot length rescue boat to my equipment there on site. Hazardous materials, security, that's all normal. Facility access, this is the thing about the gate. Sanitary plan is, of course, you guys have one contracted company here that we have to use. We are going to build a bathroom, which will be either inside the 864 square foot building or right next to it, and there will be a small drain field that handles that. And if we have a larger event where more people are going to be there, instead of putting stress on that system, I'll bring in porta potties, and when they leave, they'll take that stuff with them. The majority, the way people are going to get around on the site, and the majority is hike. So we're going to have trails, and this tells you what our trails construction standards are, how wide, how much height, and so on and so forth, what slope. And you can see there, I selected a group of characteristics that we're going to build to, and it's that highlighted column there. Local design and construction team, Jennifer Langford was the architect for the Pink Flamingo for me. She did a great job, and she's actually meeting me at the site tomorrow. She's going to do this for us. International Construction Management Services, that's Keith Lemon. He'll be our GC, another friend of mine who's handled a bunch of projects for me here, and he's agreed to do this one as well. Boone Welding and Powder Coating, a very famous firm that's been around here since the 70s. They're going to build our towers. And there's kind of a change in ownership going on there. And Bubba Bassard, the old owner, is phasing out, and the Collins family, who is also investing in this park, is phasing in. And in fact, Eli Collins is with us here tonight. And so they, in addition to building these towers, we've got a lot of stuff going on at the park with this metal that I think is going to really be, because we've got a cutter that is computer controlled, so we can cut into the steel up the stairs, you know, trees and all. I mean, this thing is going to be stunning. I need a drink, I apologize. Infinite Solutions is a local contracting company. They're going to do the work inside the actual physical building, which I said is very small. All our computer work will be done by Torbjørn Scheibefeld in Copenhagen, Denmark. He's a genius. We used Josh Moore and Wallace Martin as our land clearing team. They did a great job out there. That's our forestry number. We did conduct some burns, and those were the numbers associated, our permit numbers with each of those burns. Special thanks to the Samley family from Florida for having the vision to go forward with this, because I want to say for the record that the alternative to this, to me, is this property is mined, and I believe that would be a disaster. As you can see, it's gorgeous, and then to destroy something of this, just to get a little rock out of it, I mean, is really. The Collins family, of course, the Carter family from Maryland, the Glant family here from Florida. I have to admit, I'm engaged to her, so there's a little connection there, just to be clear. And then the Klausner family. Economic analysis. Overall, I believe it's economically viable for a variety of reasons. Number one, the zipline course in Ocala, which I'm sure you all know about, is successful and has remained so throughout the pandemic. They have fewer zip lines, shorter zip lines than we plan to build here. This site is also located next to Gainesville, the University of Florida, Santa Fe College, and of course the monster Route 75. All of these add to my reasoning behind why I believe this will be economically successful. So there's a big corridor there. You can see it. There's 1.5 million cars that travel down that road every month, up and down it. And there's 75 million visitors that visit southern Florida, and 1 million up here that come to the Springs. There's a lot of people that come here, and there's a lot of people that want a zip line. I think it will be something that'll be, people will remember coming to Newberry for the zip line course. This tells you a little bit about my sign plan. Obviously, the purple ones are the big ones out on Route 75. I think I'm going to need 3 north and 3 south, and then the little ones are just local signage. We're not sure exactly what the total plan is, but we'll get them there. There's 3 ways because there's 3 exits. And if they come off in the most northern way, they come down the green line, that's 9 miles. If they come out, that's 11. And if they go all the way down to the hospital exit, that's 14. But in general, with 3 exits, I'm really, really happy about the transportation accessibility of this project. COVID-19, it definitely did affect the industry down here, and I believe it's still affecting the industry down here. But what I did, rather than put this project off, is I brought our numbers that we think we're going to do there down. So Ocala's been averaging 150 a day. And I think that 90 is a reasonable estimate considering it's a new park and that we're recovering from COVID and so on and so forth. That would mean 28,000 visitors a year because we expect to be open 6 days a week. It could handle a much higher maximum capacity from a concurrency standpoint, but our pro forma as well as our advertising and staffing plans all center on the 90 riders per day originally. So concurrency, which is your version of adequate public facilities ordinance. Fire and life safety, we're comfortably conforming. Water availability and potability, comfortably conforming. Septic, comfortably conforming. Schools, not applicable. We don't generate any school-age children. Swanee, Swanee will be, not to be a horrible pun, but the Swanee will be my Rubicon. So I have to go over there and convince them that I'm not going to do anything bad to this water. Utilities, I apologize. At the last hearing, I said that there was three-phase on site, and there was until just recently, but they've removed that. So I'm going to have single-phase brought back in on whichever way we come in. That was way too much power for us anyway, so it didn't make any difference. And this is not a material change, in my opinion, because it is right there available on the road. Parking, buffering, and screening, 1 handicap space, 15 regular for the asphalt drive, and asphalt shavings for the 10 by 20 spaces, and I may go ahead and just pave the entire thing. The only reason I wouldn't is Swanee gives me every bit of impervious that I can take off the plan, they're happy about. We're buffered on all sides by mining and motocross racing activity. There's actually no residential anywhere near the property. We propose a sign, obviously along 235 in conformity with signs requirements. Septic, there's a soil engineer, Gerald Sweat. He's already been out to the site and done his exploration, and we've already had a geotechnical report done by GSE, and we're in good shape on 2 of the 3 fields. I had him check in 3 different places. 2 of them are okay, and if we were going to use that third one, we'd have to do a sand thing, but since I only need 1, the other. That's what this is. Him again, more, everything's fine, blah, blah, blah. And what are our numbers? Traffic, as I've already shown you. Annexation is completed. Zoning has been finished. Future land use is already done. Mining legacy. If you mine in the United States and you get a current permit, then you have to submit a plan to mitigate the damage you've done by scalloping the sides of the mine, all kinds of other things. If you did mine after 1989, you have to have such a plan. If you go broke and you had a plan in place, the people who buy the thing have to come do your plan, so you don't get out of it. So we were lucky here. The mining ended in 75, and there's no mining plan on file, so we're allowed to proceed. I mention this because the county of Alachua recently tried to buy one of these pits. And when they sent this letter off and found out what it would cost to fix it up, they got out of that contract. I believe the application is competent and compatible, and the staff agrees. You've seen the concept plan. The geotechnical soils report is really technical, but I can just tell you it was pretty good, considering. Title search, that just revealed that I didn't have access, which I already knew. This is the tower concept. So basically we went through 3 different concepts about how to launch people. Build huge tall towers, use shipping containers, which we couldn't get the engineers to go along with, and the final solution, which is these steel constructed towers by Boone. Now, this is the physics. So each ride has an angle that it goes down at, and it has tension on the cable, and it has a distance that it travels out and down. And when you put all that in the computer, this is what you get. So the blue line is how fast a person who weighs 275 pounds, which is the maximum weight limit, is going to be going when they jump off that cliff ride. And 70 pounds is how fast they go with the green line on the bottom. Those weight limits, by the way, are absolute. There will be a scale at the park, and if you are too heavy, you will not get the armband necessary to get on. And the reason for that, obviously, is you can see what happens. The heavier you are, the faster you go, and conceivably, you could get hurt. This is the topo for this. This is a big report. Now, I want to go to safety. Can we, Janine? All right, this is really important. Most of these parks, I'm sure you've seen, people are holding on with their hands to brake and all that kind of stuff, and they're waving to you with a flag, so you're supposed to spread out to slow down or whatever. The state of the art is what you're about to see. This is called a Hercules. This is a brake. This person that is riding this ride is 240 pounds, and they're coming in at 55 miles an hour here, and the brake system is going to absolutely protect them without any trouble. Here he comes. Now he passes the spot at 55. The springs slow him down, and they just bring him right back, and he comes right off. And I put this in for every one of them. This is very important because 78% of all accidents occur at zipline parks when people come in and they're going too fast or there isn't a braking system, they try to stop them, whatever. But you can see here, this thing works in a way that eliminates all that risk. All right, Janine. Yep. So that's safety. So we have railings, gates, and there's also a continuous belay line, which means that as you're walking up and around, you're hooked on if you fell off or something you would. And there's also a second line, which goes over the top one, a safety line. So I actually think that, according to the insurance people, this park is a greater hazard, unimproved. The no-build option, because it's what's called an attractive nuisance. People come here, they sneak in, they jump off the cliff with their friends. There's nobody there, and there's no way to rescue them. With the cameras and the security and the fencing and everything, this will be a safe place. The Dragon, 1,303 feet long. This is the longest zip line in Florida. The heavy ride will be going over 30 miles an hour there.
Where's Dragon Ride on that chart?
So the longest zip line goes from here. Oh, I gotta put it up, right? Sorry. Leaves from this hill, travels all the way down here. That's 1,303 feet.
Wow.
Now, I was gonna build one from this back hill. That would have been 1,700 feet. But we ran into so many engineering problems with that. And so in the end, I haven't given up, but for now, this is how we're going to do it. And
Okay, thank you, sir.
This is very disappointing. I didn't get to ride on it. I'm already.
the beach, that's this one.
Get COVID again. Yeah, it's okay.
So that's the Dragon, this is the beach. And as you can see, when we build our beach exhibit here one day, this will ride over it. That'll be fantastic. We'll be down there and we'll, wedding activity or something, and they fly right over it. The mountain. This is 130 feet here elevation, and the tower goes up another 30 or 40 feet. I think we're launching from like 175 here. It's spectacular up there. I've seen a drone footage of it. And this goes over these lines, in fact, across and lands on top. And that's possible because these lines are going down into the quarry, and this line's traveling over it and landing on the other side.
What's the distance between the lines?
overlapping? I don't know, but the engineers working on that, Sabrina, told me that it's sufficiently, I saw the actual spreadsheet on that calculation, but I didn't look at the distances, but they had this whole box thing worked out, but they tell me it's safe, so. I get to sue them if they're wrong. That's the beauty of having them sign it, you know what I mean? I love engineers. But if you can't get them to sign it, then, oh my God, it's a pain in the butt.
Would you like some help holding that up, sir?
No,
We've got
so
some
here we
people who
are.
could help.
So this is start. That's where you start out, and this ride, you'll see, is kind of slow. And it's not really fast, and it's not really long, and it's just so people can go there and learn what they're doing and feel better about the whole thing. The next one is really amazing. This is Jordan's Jamboree. This,
The mayor got anything to do with this?
no, this is named after a young man who was handicapped. He did pass, and it's in his honor.
Well, that's awesome.
This is a handicap line, and we will put handicapped people on this and take them across. It's all set up for that.
That is awesome.
Where's that, which one is that, Mr.
That's
Spain?
Jordan's Jamboree.
The top
The
one?
top one?
It's this very short line, right?
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
And our headquarters is up there, see, so they'll land right there. And then they just go up on this path and come back.
So that's wheelchair accessible.
It will be, yes, sir. And we'll hook them in and fly them, provided, you should see the disclaimer form on this. It's enormous. They have to be able to have certain upper body strength and so on and so forth. But provided that all of that, and there are people doing this, other people, so, but we're the only ones that have a permanent line built for
Okay.
this.
Ooh, nice.
And you look at those speeds, you see how slow they are? What a nice, gentle ride that's gonna be. It'll be beautiful. The wedding ride, that comes off of this hill. And it comes down here, and that's because we expect eventually to have an area here where people can have an event, like a wedding or something like that. But I may have to rename this ride, because they're doing some mining over here. And this is gonna end up giving you a view of this Union land property that's gonna be phenomenal. I mean, this is gonna be the lake view ride eventually. That ride really moves. This is me. You know all this. Analysis, you've done the future land use, special exception process rules. What are they? You want to know this stuff? This is the application. Health regulations. This just says that if I do have people come there and they are vendors or whatever, like a food truck or whatever, that I'll make sure they have licenses and blah, blah, blah. Parking. I'm in compliance. I can park as many cars as we'll ever need on this road here that we don't even need. It was left there, this 20-foot wide. So I don't have to add any impervious. But I am gonna put a little impervious parking lot up there because I want handicap parking next to the handicap bathroom. Handicap toilet drain field, refuse plan, same, that's, you already know. Utilities I've told you about, comprehensive plan, I don't know. Okay, so reactions, we had a lot of people say they were excited about this. Zip lining with the mayor, count me in.
We're gonna get some mayor commissioner races going here pretty soon.
All right, very good.
Just waiting for comments. Now, I'll tell you, after you climb 175 feet, you're gonna be down a couple pounds.
Letter of support from Joy. There was a negative, Amanda Evans. I do have to.
What?
One negative? Yes. Why? And she said, this makes no sense. Sounds like a failure to come. As I've showed you from the economic analysis, which we spent a considerable time and amount of money on, actually. I don't actually think this is accurate. I think there's substantial amount of evidence that the economic justification for the project is significant. And finally, I can barely read this one. He says his name is Chris Davis. He lives here in Newberry. He thinks it's a great idea, and he has 5 kids. So I thought I had to put him in here. Questions?
Not yet.
Not yet.
We got
Not yet.
public comments. We don't have any. There's no third-party interveners. There's no need for the applicant to cross-examine? Is there anything you need to cross-examine from the staff, sir?
No?
How about staff? Any cross-examination for the? You waive? Okay. Now, members of the decision-making body, you have any questions? Go ahead, Commissioner Farnsworth.
You gave us a weight limit. Is there a minimum weight or a minimum, not minimum?
70 pounds.
Okay. And will the personnel be having the medical training?
They will have training. We budgeted a substantial amount of money for training. You mean, will we hire somebody that is like an EMT and they're off time or whatever? I don't understand your question.
Okay, will they be required to have like basic life support?
CPR.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of those machines.
And will, yeah, an AED?
Oh, we'll put an AED out there. I think it's a good idea.
Okay.
Anyone else?
Yeah. First of all, how'd you come up with the names for the zip lines? Just out of curiosity.
The
I heard a
different
couple
names?
of them. Yeah.
Oh, okay, so each one will start, that's where you begin. So we thought that was easy. Dragon, we made that up because it was the biggest, longest, and when we were originally doing it, we were gonna build an actual dragon out of shipping containers. So you climb up inside the dragon and fly out of his mouth. The beach, because you fly over the beach. The mountain, because this is the tallest place on the site, and I'm gonna build the tallest tower here, so it's kind of like, coming across on the mountain. The wedding, obviously, because it's down to the wedding area. And Jordan's Jamboree, because that was his name.
Where's the panther?
The what?
The panther?
No page 2. We do have an alligator. So, I guess every body of water in Florida.
The trails that you have, are they going to be like lined in color for directions of where to go?
No, it's a
Self-explanatory?
What we're going for here is a very natural look. It's really pretty out there, and I don't want to, even that pole I'm going to build in the corner, which we hook the zip lines to, I'm going to paint it the same color as the cliff, so that as you are standing anywhere around, looking into that corner, you don't see it. We're trying to make it look natural and beautiful and pretty, and that's what the trails will be. They'll be of a natural material, and the key thing is you just have to keep them somewhat level and of a consistent material, so that you don't have roots and stuff in that people will trip on.
And then one more. The water. Have you had anyone go down just in case there's a rock or something that's submerged to make sure that it's all cleared?
Well, okay, so I am going to have divers dive the quarry.
Huh?
I am going to have divers dive the quarry.
Oh, D3?
To check it out.
D3 diving?
But I have not done that yet. One of the owners told us that some time ago, many, many years ago, they took some cars, 4 or 5 cars out of the quarry. So the question is, did they take them all out? And if they didn't, and there are some still down in there, do they have any material in them that's leaking into the water? So there's a company that works with the Florida Department of Fish and Game, and they have a really silly name. I can't come over right now. But anyway, Joe Vaughn is a state biologist with them, and he's a friend of mine, and I brought him out to the site, and we went all around and talked about all the different things, and he recommended that I contact this company, and I have done so. And they're going to come out and do a complete water survey where they actually take water from different levels of the thing, and then they collaborate with the University of Florida, and they come up with a plan to create what's called a floating islands. And what these are, they're a material that float in the quarry, and they allow small animals and fish and things to live in that floating thing, and that provides the environmental food, so to speak, for everything else, the rest of the food chain in the quarry. So I intend, with their cooperation, to add the elements to this to make it much more environmentally robust, because unfortunately the way it was dug, you see, with no small area, no area where there's shallows, and you don't have the sunlight coming in there, and you don't have all that life. You need that. So I'm going to supply that a different way, and we're going to have a whole teaching thing about that. When people come and zip, they're going to, learn about that and get to see what they're doing as they leave. And so it's going to be both a zip park, but also a place for families and a place for environmental education and a place that's really, really attractive. That's what we're going for.
Will there be any public swimming?
I don't know.
I know you've kind of got a shelf there and a lowland and some things we had talked about.
It's a complicated question. It involves three things. Number one, we have to look at the water quality and what's going on in there. So, and number two, is there anything in the water that could be a threat to people? Because there are certain things in the water in Florida, if you get them up your nose or whatever, they go in your brain and blah, blah, blah. So you got to worry about that. If that's not a problem, those two things are not a problem, eventually I can think of a lot that could be done there, including there's a thing where they drop you, you jump, and I was talking to one of your council members about her rite of passage experience there, and I think that's a great name for a ride. So you come there and you jump off the cliff, and it's your rite of passage, and you don't hit the water hard enough to break your neck, because we have a harness on you, and there's a bungee essentially, and it lets go of you. So I think eventually, but the engineering necessary to know about that, and the Swanee River permission, those are all things that will come in the future. And when I had the zipline park open and running, and we had the time to do that, yes, sir. Just not in phase one.
Carl, can you kind of go through a bit of a person's day at this park, like the flow, how they're going to move about the park?
Sure. So there's two ways that they could come in. One, Argos I'm negotiating with, and also Limestone Products. And they basically own the two pieces of property that have the critical way to get in for us. So our customers will arrive up here in this corner, and there'll be a parking lot right there for them to park in. And if they have to use the bathroom right away, they would be able to do that. And the drain field for that bathroom is right up in that corner. They would get out, and they would walk just a little ways down to our Welcome Center. And that's an 864 square foot building. And once they enter the Welcome Center, they have a bunch of different things to do. They have to check in, to make sure that we have a reservation for them, and we have to obviously charge them. And they sign a little thing, and they go through a whole thing with us where they say, that they understand the rules and so on and so forth. And they watch a little video, and we give them a harness, and they leave from there, and depending upon what type of ticket they bought, whether it's an all-day ticket or a half-day ticket, depending upon whether they're going to do just some of these or all of them. And so you can, from there, you would hike down. If you're an all-day ticket, you would run start, and then you would go here, and when you come out of here, you climb up, and you fly back on the mountain. And the whole thing is a big ring, and it's broken into two parts. So the half-day ticket, you ride 3 of them, and the full-day ticket, you ride all of them. And the way you get back to this plateau is when you arrive over on this side, you take the mountain back. Or you could, of course, walk.
How would you get back to this one?
Which one here?
Yeah. The
Walk.
The way, it's called the way, right?
The wedding. It's all accessible on foot. I do have a trail map. I didn't put it in, but I'll throw it into the Dropbox for you. Where's your tree stand? The tree stand? There were a lot of tree stands on this property. There was a group that leased it from Miami or somewhere, and they were hunting there or something, I don't know, whatever. But yeah, there was tree stands, definitely. And people, of course, were sneaking in and fishing and blah, blah, blah. But I've cut that out. Insurance companies.
There'll have to be some sort of fishing, weekend fishing trips to be able to get this done.
There's a long list of people that want to fish here.
I've enjoyed this place as a kid. So we have all,
You were in there?
oh yeah.
Okay, well.
Oh, yeah.
And please don't take that as any public admittance
tells me
of
that,
trespassing or doing anything illegal. He's just talking.
I was allowed.
I have another question.
I think
too.
it's completely just really sad that anyone would trespass and cliff dive in that area.
We got,
Nobody up here would ever publicly acknowledge or admit to committing a crime
Yeah,
of
yeah.
that
Crime
nature.
Committee, we have another
Yeah.
question, Mr. Spade.
Is there connectivity to the Gatorback Cycle Park?
Sort of.
Or is there kind of intended to?
I have a meeting coming up with Ms. Hare, and I've talked to some of the people over there. I don't actually intend for there to be any connectivity or cross whatever. The only thing is, they do have a road that lets them can get onto our property, and I think the fire department's interested in working out the best way to get from their 10,000-gallon tank back onto our property if they need it refilled. But other than that, it's unlikely. I do think, though, that on the weekends when they have their events, we're going to be slammed. I mean, there's just going to be thousands. I mean, you've seen the photo. You guys, you live here. You know what it's like. There's so many people out there. So I'll work with them as best as possible on.
Is there a common property line?
Oh yeah. They're renting this ground.
There we go. Yeah. Where's the helicopter pad gonna be?
The LZ is going to go right here. I'll pick it up.
Bottom of the wind.
Sorry about that. Right here.
I have one more. So when you mentioned 90 a day,
Yes, sir.
with Gatorback coming online, when they're there,
Yes.
what is your max capacity? Do you know, or is that just a,
There was a report written by a company in Canada called Skyline. They were the original people that I contracted with to determine the feasibility, all kinds of other stuff, because they do these all over the world. They say that this site could support a maximum of 350 a day. But 350 a day is 170 cars, it's more sewage than I can support with one toilet, so on and so forth. So I've set my limit right now at around 200 a day, which can be supported with it. Now, if I build more infrastructure and whatever, then I would conceivably right. But I think the site could support more, according to them, and I agree with that. The big thing here is there's two models. So either you have the people make appointments and they come to the park, and you have the number of guides there necessary to then take them out, and one guide brings them out and goes first, and then they go, and then the second guide goes, and they make their way around the park in that manner. However, if you have enough demand, if there are enough people showing up, you can position a person at one tower and the other, and now the people just come and go and come and go, and you can handle much of a lot. Now, so basically the way I have the model written, I worked it all out, is below 75 people a day, we'll take reservations and only bring in enough people to handle what's happening. Once we go over that number, I'll bring on more guides and I'll station them everywhere and we'll let it float up. So the answer is that it's really dependent upon how much demand we have and whether I'm going with what I call the guided model or the station model, where each person but you have to have enough to relieve them and so on and so forth, so.
Anyone else have any questions?
Mr. Chair. First, do you have, it doesn't have to be exact, but do you have a price point that you're looking at for people who are maybe intending to come out and do this? You know how much it's going to cost to do a half day, whole day?
Almost all these parks charge between $45 and $55 for a half-day ticket, and almost all of them charge between $85 and $100 for a full-day ticket. And almost all of them charge between $10 and $12 for a short ride and $15 to $20 for a long ride. And if you take my long and my short rides and you break them out and you do my thing and whatever, I end up right where they all are. My half-day ticket's going to be somewhere around $50 to $55, and my full-day ticket's going to be somewhere around $95.
Okay. Thank you. There were a couple of things from the P&Z. One, in our conditions staff, we have the 1 mil insurance.
Correct.
But that's really 1 million per incident. Is that right?
The way you have it written, it's not. But the way my policy is written, it will be 1 million per incident, 5 umbrella.
So should we correct our conditions to mirror what the applicant is actually going to?
I would prefer that you not. If you leave it the way it is, does it? Thank you.
Well, I understand why you would prefer that we not. But the P&Z thought that 1 million was light. The applicant assuaged those concerns by saying it was 1 million per incident. To protect the city's interest, if that's what the applicant's going to have, should that be in the conditions, or should there be at least some opportunity for the city to know if he intends to lower the coverage, that we're part of that conversation?
Sure.
I would advise that it be per occurrence. That's what we typically see in our agreements for liability purposes.
The million per occurrence is how it's written. The $5 million umbrella is just because it's standard practice for me. I just.
Come back to the mic if you could.
Yeah. I'm sorry. The million per occurrence is just standard, and the 5 million umbrella, that's a little more than normal. You usually have a $2 million umbrella, but in this case, the difference in cost between these two policies, between the $2 million umbrella and the $5 million umbrella, was very, very small. So I went ahead with it. I just mentioned that because if they change this, does that mean we have to, or we're all right, we can make this change? Okay. Then I don't care. Go right ahead, because I intend to have the higher limit.
Okay. If that's your intention, if it's not your intention, we've kind of stopped having that conversation because that's what you said you intended to do on the P&Z. It would just open the door for what y'all's level of comfort is. So if the intention is 1 million per incident, 5 million umbrella, if we could change our agreement to mirror that.
And if I end up at 4 or something crazy, I'll let you know.
Okay.
If that's all right with you. But I don't think that's the case. I think that's how it goes. It goes, like I said, I have it quoted at 5. So.
Okay. Anything else, JP?
I just wanted to add if the board could, in their motion, make that amendment clear to the recommended condition.
I'm glad you said that because one of my other comments is the P&Z talked about the dark sky. You guys and the P&Z have all dark sky lighting requirements. You guys and the P&Z have been speaking with a fairly consistent voice, especially in our rural areas. We want dark sky. That didn't make it into the motion, but that's because the conversation went on for another 20 minutes and then we forgot to put it in the motion. But there was certainly, the P&Z's intent was dark sky. There was some confusion on the applicant's behalf that dark sky meant dimmer. That's not what dark sky means at all. Dark sky is just as well lit at the bottom. It just keeps it from going up. Now there is, and I'll ask either JP or Jamie because I don't have these numbers in my head very well. There's what we put up now. There's dark sky, and then there's dark sky light that gets you 80 to 90% of the way, but the cost differential is significant. Staff, microphone, Jamie.
There's what has been historically placed.
Madam Clerk, will you swear in Assistant City Manager?
State your name.
Jamie Jones.
Do you hereby swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. There's what's historically been placed as far as lighting, and then there's dark sky friendly, dark sky compliant. Dark sky compliant is probably 30 to 40% higher.
Okay, we're not talking, it's a fairly small building that he's putting up, so I don't see, and he will have nighttime rides, which we haven't talked about.
Aren't they the issue?
Mr. Mayor, it's not only street lights, but any exterior lighting on the building itself, or security lighting, parking lot lighting.
Right. So that, I would say if we want to be consistent with the dark sky compliant or dark sky compliant is the almost there, but
Dark sky friendly is almost there. Dark sky compliant is compliant.
I would say dark sky friendly is probably where we want to be because we're not talking about a big structure with lots of lights. It's fairly small. Most of will be during the day. And when he does have his night events, he's obviously going to get people to see the stars as well. But I think that we need to make that in the motion because it was a desire of the P&Z that failed to make it into the motion, which is why JP mentioned that, hey, we had that conversation, but no one remembered to put it in the motion. So we want to be dark sky friendly. That means that it's not going to be a significant more cost on him at this point to do it. Dark sky compliant is a substantial upgrade, and the dark sky friendly gets us most of the way we're trying to get to.
Have a question?
I have a,
We got a question. Commissioner Farmer?
With the dark sky, is the facility going to be lit all night long?
No.
For
Most of the
security
time,
reasons?
It was shut down by sundown. We will have night zipping maybe one time a month or something like that, and if there's an event at night or whatever, so on and so forth. But in general, we're going to shut down when the sun goes down.
But you won't be leaving lights on for security or anything of that nature?
Oh, there'll be security, but the cameras we use are IR, so they don't, they see in the dark essentially.
Yeah, I'm not really wound up about the dark sky, whatever, and I've never even heard about it, never even heard of it before. But I mean, you can't have people walking out on the trails anyway when it's dark, and at nighttime anyway. I could see every once in a while, doing a nighttime deal where you have escorted people walking through trails, but he's not going to want people walking around at night anyway.
Oh, no, well, of course we have fencing and whatever. I mean, you have to climb over a fence and then jump off the cliff in the dark. You want to kill yourself.
I'm talking about the people that are using the park.
Well, the people that are using the park, they're on belay, and when they do the night launch, they have the little light tube with them and whatever. And in general, the whole, our nighttime activities would be very limited for this exact reason. I just don't want the safety factor.
Yeah, if you, pretty much every one of our policies, I think the company, or in this case, has to list the city as an additional interest on the policy anyway. So that triggers notice to the city. Anybody who's listed as an additional interest gets notification of any changes in the insurance policies, ever.
When it comes to the insurance, it's just the difference between what we have in the requirement and what he plans on having. So if he sells the business and we haven't specified it's 1 million per incident, then the next person could say, well, the only condition in y'all's plan is 1 million, that's it. So that's the issue about consolidating and just making sure that they're having the same language. We've had 3 visioning sessions where we talked about dark sky, and in every single subdivision that we've approved, we've had a conversation about dark sky. The P&Z have talked about dark sky an awful lot. One of the P&Z members went on a pretty good conversation for about 10 minutes about her issues in a rural area with people putting up street lights in the yard that shine 20 acres over. So I think it's whether you guys want to move forward with it or not, in order to be consistent with all the conversations we've had for the past year, you would say, well, we are not requiring dark sky compliant, but we are asking for dark sky friendly. At this stage in the game, it's really not a big ask.
Except I don't know precisely what those rules are, which is why I'm reluctant to just agree. And I say this for a reason, because ultimately, at night, I do plan to light these cliffs. Ooh. And we're not only going to light them, we're going to put a drone show on over the center area. It's going to be.
Are you talking about like little drone shows where they start to do designs?
I'm talking about those drones will take off at night in layers, and they'll form a cube over this, and then I'll turn on the lights on the cliffs, and this thing will be on national TV.
I think there could certainly be, and will we have another, there's a resolution, so this is it. I think we could certainly have exceptions for special events. We do that all the time. I think when we talk about dark sky, we're talking about the street lights that are going to be there, letting people in, any exterior lights that you have on the building that may be on for security reasons permanently.
Well, it may be that the way the rules are written, it doesn't prohibit this. I have not read the difference between compliant and friendly, and I want to, because like I said, this is going to be stunning, and there's going to be no light.
But you're not leaving that on.
Oh, no, no,
you're
no,
turning that on for a special event.
This would be an
right.
event.
I don't think that wouldn't factor into this.
You
but
could get married here and see yourself proposing to her up in the drums. I mean, boy, there's some really amazing stuff coming.
I'm going to get remarried.
And we're going to do it here.
Mr. Joseph Jones, will you speak to his concerns?
Dark sky friendly and dark sky compliant. The idea behind that, all light is cast downward, no light escapes and goes up and off the property. So
But I'm going to be shooting these right at those cliffs.
That's your special event. This is the lighting on the side of your building, parking lot, or security for normal operations. Those would be dark sky friendly, or if they choose dark sky compliant. Your special event is a different scenario.
I understand your hesitancy, and I apologize that we forgot to put it in the motion, but there are 5 P&Z members that thought that was the intent. So again, you guys, that's a recommendation. You guys are free to go a different way. I'll just say that it has been a constant and consistent request from our residents to protect the light pollution.
And I think in a residential neighborhood, that is a really good idea, and they're correct. But I think out here surrounded by the mines, in this facility, that requirement actually is inappropriate.
And again, I understand that you think that dark sky makes it dimmer, and that's not at all what dark sky does.
No, I'm just saying, I knew where he was going with this. It's where the lights are pointed. and I intend to point them at the cliffs, which is not down.
We're talking special event or daily operations?
That's for special event, but we could have a special event. I mean, what if it was every Friday night? What if there was something happening?
That's a
That's
special
fine.
event.
Special event. I have one more thing.
You're turning those on and off, Mr. Spain, correct?
Yes, sir.
You're turning those.
Oh,
right?
of course.
So the city manager is saying, right now, the dark sky friendly, if we put this in this motion to get you through this tonight, that it's what you leave on at your building. Your security lights, your building lights, whatever you have, if we go with a dark sky friendly, they're pointed down and nothing's pointing up.
Agreed.
Okay.
Perfect. I had one more suggestion. The Criminal Justice Department has a diving division.
Yes, sir.
Now, I'm absolutely sure you want to have professional divers that do this work, but I think that they would absolutely love to be a part when you go and you do that, of getting that kind of a training. These are young kids who are going
I'd
into
love to have
criminal
them out there.
justice.
That's
So
fantastic.
I'll put you in touch with the Criminal Justice Director, and maybe we'll get the kids involved. I think it'd be a great PR
bless you.
moment. Yeah.
And I'm already insured, so they can come right out.
One more question. So it being, all this insurance talk got me thinking about this. It being live still, what are your measures when it comes to, I don't know how the cables work, tightening screws, when mines go off, things start have a tendency of loosening up. What is your precaution, what is your measure on your annually or your monthly inspections?
So when the lines are initially put up, all of them are tension to double the total tension that they would ever have to take, and then lessen back out. As I've said, there's two lines, so there's the one you ride on, the primary line, and then the secondary line. And you're hooked to both of them. So even if you're somehow somehow you unhooked yourself, you cut it, it failed for whatever reason, that secondary one is also on there, and it's steel. So you'd have to take a tool with you to cut yourself loose. I'm sorry, the rest of the question?
No, that was it. I was, you annual.
Oh, okay, and yeah, we not only inspect each ride every day, but there's a machine, it's an MRI machine, and we run it down the line, and it does a little thing in the computer, and it tells you if there's a flaw anywhere in that cable. So, and we do that once a year. And Abbey Inc., the company that is doing all this for us, they have an inspection schedule, they have all this inspection stuff they have to do, they coordinate with the Florida Department of Agriculture, and they come and teach us all that, and they actually, and all of that is also submitted to your fire department. So it's pretty safe. It's not like these other rides that are a lot more dangerous. You know.
There's no motion. There'd be final argument, and then I'll advise competent substantial evidence, but is there any final argument?
Anything else? Final arguments for the applicant? Nope, good. Staff? Good. City attorney, will you advise the decision-making body?
So you'll make your decision based off competent substantial evidence, meaning that you'll take into account all the testimony and evidence presented today.
Okay. Can I get a motion to approve with the dark sky friendly?
Condition on the building,
Condition.
but not my special events.
But not, yes.
Yes, sir.
So,
I'll motion it.
And the 1 million insurance.
and we need to add that
1 million
1 million in
policy.
on the insurance and the dark friendly skies to the per occurrence for the motion.
I'll motion
So
it.
can I get a motion?
I motion it.
So I got a motion from Commissioner Azon and a second from Commissioner Coleman. Can I get all in favor by saying comments or questions from the dais?
All out, yes. I think it's a great idea. I'm glad you thought of it. I'm glad you brought it to Newberry. Thanks to all the members that are involved. Thank you to the families. I can't wait. That's it.
Any public questions, comments? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously.
God bless you.
We got.
Motion was made by Coleman.
It was made by Commissioner Mason
Okay.
and seconded by Commissioner Coleman.
Coley was upset because he's not all this, they all love it, but he don't get to ride it.
Any further discussion?
265 pounds.
You're all right.
There you go.
You're 10 pounds under.
Weight Watchers.
10 pounds
Weight
under.
Watchers is on.
There you
TV.
go.
Further discussion?
All right. First race, right here.
Any weight between now and Christmas.
Hey, John, we going together, man.
Suck it down.
We got to do comments, public comments.
Double comment.
And
Any
Dias
public comments?
Sorry. Mr. Chair, I know it's late, but I didn't give some comments because we had this, and I just wanted to say just a few things. One, I wanted to say congratulations to the Newberry High School baseball team. They're district champs for the second year in a row. So they are heavy, absolutely. They're heavy in training for the second state championship, but as soon as they're done with the season, we'll talk about getting them up here so we can give them proclamation, those kinds of things. The first semi-regional is tomorrow, which is not in Newberry. Friday is in Newberry, if we can keep winning. Don't forget, the Watermelon Festival is May 21st, which is before we'll meet again. The parade lineup starts at 9:30. The parade starts at 10, so please come out and support the Watermelon Festival. This is the longest continually running Watermelon Festival in the United States of America. At 3 o'clock on the same day, May 21st, there's going to be a book signing with a guy whose author's name is A. American. He's written a book series very, very popular in our community. The first book comes through Newberry. He's going to be here in person at Woodyard Grill at 3 o'clock. He'll have his new book out. He'll be ready to sign and do a little book reading from it. So that's at 3 o'clock on May the 21st. And then on May 26th, we are going to meet at the Blend for the very first meeting of a group called United We Father. And we're going to have a conversation amongst ourselves for how we can address some of the issues that we're seeing among our young kids and how the men in this community can get together and what we can do as dads. So I would hope that we have a great turnout for that as well. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate you letting me make those comments.
Yeah, why not? I got one, actually two things. Newberry Pizza, you guys familiar with it? You know that they expanded a little bit on the end down there? Got a little pool table down there, a little bar, a little wine, you know? And Marcus Tucker, you ever heard of him? Yep. That didn't get hurt because all this was red.
Yeah, fantastic. Obviously, as the mayor's pointed out, we have a lot going on this month. We're also closing out another school year, so keep your eyes and ears open with regards to students and wanting to do stupid stuff. And congratulations to the baseball team again. Thanks.